Just in time for Halloween, the Kraken limited edition black roast coffee rum. This rum comes in a satanic 66.6 proof. It crawled out of the depths of hell and into your glass. It's unexpectedly rich, potent, and smooth. Try this new legend for a limited time because once it vanishes, it may never return. Available now, US only.
Release the Kraken! All right, so I have a question, James. When you made the head incident in 1999, did you ever think Kraken Rum would be sponsoring this video?
18 going on 19 making this movie.
Couldn't even drink Kraken Rum back then.
Yeah, I would have never imagined. No. So this was an interesting choice because I was like, how funny would it be to bring in a movie that I made, and the fact that it's 20 years old now. This is, I mean, it was finished in August, but this is still roughly the 20th anniversary. Yeah. That now that there's been so much time between when I made it, I can just look at this movie now and be like, what the fuck? What was I doing?
Yeah. So this was released in August, which means it's older than the Dreamcast.
Yeah.
Is.
Well, released, yeah. Released as far as like, you know, showing friends on a VHS tape and stuff. But I don't want to get into behind the scenes stuff as much. Or, I mean, if you have questions, feel free to ask them. But I'm more about just talking about the movie objectively, just like what, you know, is going on with this. Well, I can say one thing. I do know that my intention was to make it funny but creepy. Yeah. So I was going for this B-movie feel. And at times I kind of regretted it later. I was like, oh, I should have just made it creepy, like, because I kind of had something going there. But now, after all this time, I'm like, you know what? I like the funny parts too. Yeah. Because what I understood at that age was that B movies, like really bad horror movies specifically, have to have a certain level of badness where it has to look like some weird choice that was made. It can't always look like, oh, well, they didn't have the budget for that or whatever. Because it's like, that's simple. It's like, okay, well, it's not gonna look as good. But like when you make a weird choice, like why do you have the ventriloquist dummy head attacking the guy? He's rolling back and forth, screaming at the top of his lungs, and to just keep on rolling and to show it all and to not ever cut. You're like, okay, in any other movie, he would die or he'd fight it back or something new would happen. But to just linger on that, just that,
I love the like 8-minute fight scene that's a few shots to like there's the same like punch like this that's filmed from down here. And like it goes on forever of just the man in black getting his ass kicked and not doing anything back. Like
he just stands there. I don't know. Did you want to describe the plot in a nutshell?
Okay, so it starts off. This guy is in, I guess, some sort of psychiatric office that is in a basement somewhere, and he keeps describing that I guess he's haunted by this floating dummy head and a man in black that they found while driving down like an abandoned road.
The man from the neighborhood watch signs.
Yeah, pretty much. And they see this car driving slow, and then a floating head, which is totally not attached to, you know, someone's arm dressed in black. And two kind of like stoner buddies, I guess, see it and then are haunted by the visions of this floating dummy head and man in black for some reason. And then it turns out that numerous patients in this psychiatric facility are also suffering the same delusions of this head. So the man then goes into the story.
And it was based on a true story.
What?
I mean, not that I was going to go too much in behind the scenes, but my friend and I, we were on the school bus at the time. Like, we saw somebody in the bus in front of us waving around one of those styrofoam heads that he had painted or something, and he was just waving around the back seat, and we're just like, we're just laughing at it, and the dialogue was almost verbatim, where it's like, dude, I ain't seeing this man.
I ain't seeing this man.
I ain't seeing this man.
Which I know you've used in nerd stuff.
Probably.
And I never, once I heard it, I was like, oh, because I know you like to throw those in once in a while, like the like the American movie lines and things like that. But I was like, oh, okay. I find like the more I watch your stuff, the more I hear things that you use in the nerd. That I'm like, oh, okay.
Yeah, and like my character's like dialect changes every like scene. It's like I play at least 3 characters because I'm the psychologist guy, but then I'm also the stoner friend,
dude,
and then I'm also the man in black in certain scenes. See, it's like Halloween, where like 6 different people played Michael Myers.
I think like my favorite scene in the movie is when the 2 of them are like sleeping over.
And
you know, like the one guy's like, "Come on, man, like let's go and do this," and you're just like, "No, man, I don't want to do it." And he's like, "We could trash the place and it'll be fun." And he's like, and you're like, and you guys just. Thumbs up.
It holds on the thumbs up for like a really long time.
And then there's this drawer filled with just mischievous items, like Bart Simpson has, like it's spray paint and bricks and like.
I might have been thinking about that, like a Bart versus the Space Mutants. He's got the spray paint, and then he's got the brick. And
it's like, who has a drawer like that? Like it's
with
like
a brick in it. He's got a brick in his
bricks
drawer.
it's just a brick in the drawer.
And then the character Bob that I play, like every time he goes, "Yeah, man," and every time he says it gets longer, like
it seemed like, you know, just like a fun movie being made with friends. Like, let's make a horror movie, and it's kind of ridiculous, but you're like,
You never see in any movie is like those weird zoomed in shots, because you know the whole movie, of course, it's filmed off of a TV screen, or most of it, because that was the only way I knew at the time how to get it black and white. Was to turn a TV black and white and point at it.
Well, there was this scene too where the kid's running, they show like the man in black chasing the kid and stuff, and then he's like on the ground. But the like a blue like gel goes over the screen. And I was like, how did that work? Like how did he put the blue gel over black and white footage? I don't get it. And I guess you just put it over a TV screen.
So it was like over the camera lens while I was pointing. So it was like, it was basically like, because this was all edited on 2 VCRs, and it was just like, you know, when you look at it now objectively, like I look at it 20 years later now, and I kind of don't really remember a lot of that stuff as vividly, and then I just watch them like, this is just like a really weird, like I kind of created something kind of unique and weird with it, you know? And those are the type of movies I was watching too. I was like, just kind of like, there's like an art to badness. Like there has to be this certain kind of like mystery to why that happened. Not just what it was low budget, but like why did they think to do that, or like why did?
I think that's why like movies that are so bad they're good kind of work. The reason why they work is because someone tried to make something the right way, and it just turned out not. Like I watch a ton of bad movies, but I genuinely enjoy them because this person went out and made a movie. They finished a film, and it may not be great, but it's like, you're entertaining the hell out of me right now. I loved the montage of effects at one point. Like, there's just a part where like everything is an effect. Like each shot goes to like, you know, like there's a part where they like kind of kaleidoscope in. And there's like one is like warped funny, and then there's one where it's all pixely and stuff.
And those were all in-camera effect. Like the camera had like some digital effects in it. It was a VHS camera, but it had like, you know, like where you could turn it to negative or something stupid. You know?
I had one of those where it was like the screen comes out on the side and it has like little buttons. You can do the strobe light effect, and it just like makes the all jittery and stuff.
There's the one scene where he puts the head in the oven, and then to like, you know, kill it by just heat, but then he just turns the heat up to a certain temperature, and you see him just going beep, 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 like as if there's a certain, there exists a certain cooking temperature to kill a murderous dummy head.
Like preheat the oven to 425.
I remember even then, I that part I thought was hilarious. And Rick, the character who plays Rick, my buddy, who I have talked to recently about doing a sequel to this.
Oh, really?
So
I would like to see a remake or something. That would be awesome.
Because his style of acting in it is so funny too, and like I find it even funnier now, I think, because he has this like self-awareness to it where he can act really good. Like there's scenes where he's like really serious about it, but then there's parts where he's like, you know, he says something in a bad way on purpose, where he's like, if we keep dreaming the same thing every night, it's got to mean something, doesn't it? And he's a huge fan of Halloween, you know, like me and us, you know, so he's like, a lot of times, every now and then, he slips into like a British Dr. Loomis accent, like every now and then. Also, this was the first film I made with Kevin Finn. So I had just met him, and I cast him in a role as like the psychiatrist in this, or the psychologist.
The pipe smoking guy.
Yeah. And I remember I called him recently. We were talking about it, and I was like, hey, here's all the ideas I have for the sequel. Like, this is what your character goes through, and we talked all about it. I don't know when the sequel's getting made, by the way, or if it's happening. But anyway, I was like so. We'd have you smoking the pipe again, but now you do it more like you're nervous, and instead of in the first one, and he's like, "Do you want me to use the same pipe?" And I was like, "You have the same pipe?" And he's like, "It's in my hand right now."
Oh, does he actually smoke a pipe?
He had it in his hand. Yeah, he still had the same pipe from 20 years ago, and it was in his hand while I was talking to him on the phone about it.
Wow.
Yeah. Anyway, that was fun, just like looking objectively at the head incident from 20 years ago. And I mean, if you want to know where to see it, it is on YouTube. There's a link in the description. So, yeah, go check it out.
Yeah.